Hi everyone, it's great to see you. Today I'm going to be showing you a couple different things, but the biggest part of today's video is the basic tutorial of how to use the bag in the pot method. And I know that you have seen me do multiple videos on this. You know that I think this is one of the best ways that you can make your planters last from early spring all the way to fall, changing it up so that things are in bloom and looking beautiful the whole time. So let's go through the basic supplies that you're going to need to begin with. The first thing you're going to need is a very large pot. I'm going to link everything that I'm talking about down below. Nothing is sponsored, but these are the things that I tend to use that have worked out really well for me. So this is a 22-inch diameter pot here. It is very lightweight, which I love because it helps me be able to reposition these around the yard however I want. And I get these at Home Depot. I have to tell you two reasons. So I love the size. I love that it's light. The brown color just sort of fades into the background of the garden. At least it does to me. And I see the beautiful plants spilling over the edges. So I like that. To me, it highlights the beautiful colors that you're going to have in here by just providing that dark brown backdrop. The other thing is they're cheap. So I want to say they're about, I think they were on sale for $33 the other day. It is very difficult to find a good pot that is that inexpensive. So for me, I can get multiples of these, and so far I've had a bunch of them for 3 years so far, and they are doing fine. I actually leave these outside through the winter because they're that plasticky resin here. You don't have to worry about them cracking. It's lovely. So you need a big pot. I would say the 22-inch diameter works really, really well. You need them that wide because we're going to be putting some things inside. The next thing I use is the Upsy-Daisy planter inserts here. Now these come in all different sizes. So say you get a different pot than this one, you can go and you can find the insert that matches whatever size you have. I use the 16-inch because it's going to drop in, and it's going to take, maybe the bottom 6 to 8 inches off of the pot depth, which works really well for me. It's going to make this even lighter once it has the plants and dirt in it, and provide the good drainage down the bottom because it has all the holes. Now you see a whole bunch of people saying, well, you could put gravel at the bottom for drainage. That's going to make your pot really, really heavy. You could add pine bark. Some people put plastic peanuts down there. You know, to me, I would rather either just put dirt to the bottom or do one of these pot risers. Now, the other reason that the pot riser is really helping here is that when I get to the bag and the pot here, so here's my nursery pot. This is a 5-gallon nursery pot. I also just order these, I think they come in sets of 5 from Home Depot. And they're the cheap ones that not pretty on the outside, probably not gonna just put this directly in your garden, but I want it to sit on something, and that pot riser works so well so that it's pretty much even with the top here. And if I didn't have that pot riser, it would be down so far, my bag in the pot method really wouldn't work. So you have to somehow get your nursery pot level. It doesn't have to be perfect. I've done some where it sticks up a little higher, you know, but pretty close. The last thing you really need is a bag. Now, when you have a root bag like this, a grow bag, it helps your plants to air prune their roots. So you're going to put your plant directly in here. That's your centerpiece. And as the roots grow, they actually start to grow through the bag a little bit. They hit the air and they stop. So instead of winding themselves around and becoming very pot bound, which we know is not good for your plants, they're going to keep that nice, beautiful branching, natural way that they grow out, and they just stop. So you have all those little fibers that still can get the nutrients in the water without being pot bound. So to me, the air pruning that this bag provides is totally worth it. This is also a 5-gallon root bag. So there's all different brands. I'll link the kind I use below. They have handles that you'll end up tucking in. And you definitely want to double check that your bag is going to match the size of your nursery pot. So this is really important. It can, whoops, stick out a little bit here, but you want it about the same height and the same size. And then you will just be able to pull this out and take that plant out and put in a different plant whenever you feel like it. Some people like to use 2 nursery pots. So this is another possibility. If you can't get your bags, you could have your nursery pot sit there. You could put your plant in this one and nestle it in like a little socket pot. The problem with that is this is a plastic pot, and we know that the roots are going to wind around and eventually your plant will become root bound. Fine if you're only planning to do this for like a year, but I keep my plants in their bags year to year. They do just fine. So you're looking at, 5 to 7 years that you could keep a plant in here, no problem. Your bag is probably going to give out before your plant really needs to be moved. So, just put it in a new bag when you're ready. But because it's keeping the roots from becoming root bound, you really can keep these hydrangeas in your pots year to year, no problem. So let's plant this up and then I'll tell you a little bit more about this method. So I'm going to leave in my plant riser here. I'm going to put in my nursery pot. And the first thing I'm going to do is sort of put some soil around the edge here to keep it centered. Now, I'm going to do this one centered because I'm not sure where I'm putting it and which side is going to face out. If you know this is going to be against a wall, you might choose to nestle this more to the back and just have plants around the rim here in the front. That is absolutely fine. Notice that my nursery pot has holes in the bottom, so I know I'm getting drainage here. My plant riser has holes in the bottom, so I know it's going to drain here. And the pot that I chose did not have holes in the bottom originally, but Dan was awesome to drill drainage holes. So always make sure that your whole system here, before you add any dirt, has drainage straight through to the bottom of it. I think he put in like 6 or 7 drainage holes. I like a lot of drainage in the bottom, especially after we've seen this year that there has just been so much rain. Anything that did not have good drainage was in trouble. Okay, so this is the tricky part because you sort of need to keep this steady. And I'm gonna fill in around the edge, and I always get dirt everywhere. So do this somewhere that you can easily sweep up. Whoops, and we start to slide. So that's when you stop, center it again. Okay, so far so good. Now I'm gonna add a little to the other side. No, we're not quite centered, but it's close enough. Okay. Now I'm using the Miracle-Gro potting mix because that's what I have on hand. Any potting mix is fine. Even though you are going to use this year to year, you want a potting mix and not a soil. A soil is going to get too heavy and not drain well. So a potting mix will keep this lighter and will allow it to drain. And you can add in some nutrients if you're using this for multiple years. So don't worry about that. Oh, this is looking good. Okay, now I like to stop before I get too far to the top. So I probably have a good 6 inches here because I'm going to be filling this with plants and flowers. And so I need space to plant those in, and then I'll fill in a little bit more soil around it. I probably want to keep about 1 inch or 2 from the top, just so that when I water, it doesn't overflow. So you're not filling this up to the brim. We call this part here the rim gap. So you can probably figure out why I call it the rim gap. That's the part that I change up a lot. So that might be petunias one year, potato vines another year. I do my annuals in that. You also can do perennials. You can do your hostas. I do some creeping Jenny that comes back. And that just overwinters outside and it does great. Okay, I have my rim gap here. That's looking good. I'm going to slide this over, and I'm going to bring out our centerpiece. Okay, so this is so exciting. It's a hydrangea. You know I love my hydrangeas. Take a look at this hydrangea. This is your beautiful, the classic blue hydrangea. And I have been looking for this type of hydrangea for quite a while. This is a Seaside Serenade Cape Cod hydrangea. And to me, if you're thinking of Cape Cod hydrangeas with the beautiful blue color like this, is the quintessential color that you think of, and it is gorgeous. Now, this is put out by Monrovia in the Seaside Serenade collection. And this particular hydrangea gets to be about 4 feet tall, 4 feet wide. It will do just fine in the pot. It might stay a little bit smaller, but that is okay. It has these really big, beautiful, deep green leaves that are fabulous to really show off the flowers. And I had looked at nurseries for this. I hadn't been able to find it anywhere, and I discovered that the Monrovia website allows you to order flowers on there that they have, and they'll ship them to a nursery that they've partnered with close to you. So I was able to find the Cape Cod hydrangea on their website, order it and pay for it, and they shipped it to a nearby nursery. So I'd never done this before. I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. Sure enough, a few weeks later, I get a call from the nursery that says, your hydrangea's here, you can come and pick it up. It was so easy to do, and it arrived in gorgeous shape. There's not one leaf spot on here. You know, it's late in the season. We're seeing that a lot of the hydrangeas that have been out in the nursery for the whole season, they're not looking quite as good, but this was like pristine, and I could pick it up and bring it right home. So that's how I was able to get a hold of my Cape Cod hydrangea, and I think this will be a beautiful centerpiece. So this hydrangea, or whatever you choose to put in the center, you probably want to choose something that's on the bigger side, is going to go into the pot. Now, fortunately, the pot is really almost the same size as the pot that the hydrangea is in. So what you do is you take your plant, take it out of the pot that it comes in, and you're going to take a look, and you're going to make sure it isn't too root bound. This looks pretty good. You can rough it up a bit if you want, but I don't really feel the need to. I'm going to set it right in there. Now there's maybe, I can feel, maybe like an inch or two around the edge here that might need a little dirt put in around it. So I'm going to add a little dirt, and I'm going to add a little biotone too. Okay. So when I take my biotone, whoops, it's not standing up. I'm going to take my biotone, just a little handful of it, sprinkle it around the edge, inside. And I just do like a handful. I'm trying to keep my bag kind of straight. And what I tend to do is take the bag before I stuff it full of dirt, and I put it in the socket pot. And then that sort of tells me how much dirt I need to put in. So I'm just going to take some handfuls and fill in the edge. So I'm looking at how beautiful this looks. Look at that. This is such a big hydrangea. I almost don't need to put anything around the edge. So you can leave it so it's just like this, and that's fine. And next year maybe add something around the edge. But because I'm showing this to you, I'll show you some of the plants that you could add in. I'm going to lift this back out just so you can see me plant the rim gap really carefully. It depends whether you want to plant the rim gap with the plant in the middle there or separately. Either way is fine, whatever way you think you're going to see it the best. So I have a few sweet potato vines, which you know I love. And I actually am going to do a little experiment with the sweet potato vines. There are 3 different sweet potato vines here, all proven winners. This is the tricolor. It actually has a beautiful purple rim around it. This one is the Sweet Caroline Medusa. Look at that. really unique, very deeply lobed. And then I have my typical Sweet Caroline Sweetheart Lime. So I haven't grown these two before. Part of the reason I'm doing this is to see how they do for the rest of the season and whether I want to try this in the future with these particular sweet potato vines. I tend to stick to the same thing each year, so this will make me branch out a bit. And wow, these are really, really wet. We had a lot of rain last night. I'm gonna take those roots off. There we go. Stick them in, and you sort of line them up so they trail over however you would like. There we go. And these are all annuals, so these will not be coming back next year. Okay, and then in between, so usually I do 3 pieces of foliage and 3 flowers, and these are some beautiful verbena. And I'm going to do 3 of those. Okay, it's looking good. And then you're just going to take some dirt and you're going to fill in whatever you have there so that you are all set. Keeping that about 1 inch to 2 inches from the top. Now, once this is all done, you make sure the center is empty and you lower in that beautiful centerpiece. So here we go. Oh, so pretty. And these are going to grow and cascade over the edge. Take a look at this. I love it. And you can, of course, tailor these to whether you are in the sun or the shade. That is spectacular. And then once my hydrangea is, in the fall and it stopped blooming, maybe I'll lift that out and put in some beautiful coleus or something with some fall color. A basket of mums could go in that bag just beautifully. My bags I do lift out and overwinter in my shed, which is cold, but it is protected from the wind, and then bring them out again in the springtime. So I have to tell you, for me, another reason that this works just so well is I like to change things up. And sometimes I want a little change in the garden. And if things are planted directly in the ground, you don't have as much flexibility with that. So sometimes I go out and I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe this hydrangea is getting too much sun, or I just feel like a change. I just lift this right out and I can lift something else in. Let me show you. In fact, I have a rose right over here. That is a perfect example. So I say, I'm gonna put this one somewhere else. And here comes my rose. Maybe the rose is just blooming beautifully at that moment, and I put it in and I have a different centerpiece. And maybe the rose blooms for a while and I'm like, no, I think I want something different. So I take that out. Sometimes you need help. There we go. And you lower in something else. So you can really change this up as many times as you want. And it's just fabulous that way. I'm gonna add this one back in for now though. The other great thing is when I lift that center out and I put this hydrangea into my shed for the winter, all of a sudden the pot is so much lighter. Think about it. We have the pot riser here and then we just have the dirt around the edge. So it's really, really light. Even I can lift it and move it to a more sheltered place by my fence outside for the winter. It is great. It also means that if I want to move this pot, maybe I'm having people over and that is a loud bird and I want the deck to look fabulous at that moment. I might be rearranging these. All I have to do to move them, even in the middle of the season, is lift that out, move the bigger pot, then put it back in. It just makes it so much easier if you want to have those large, beautiful pots, but you want to be able to have flexibility in where they are. Some of those big pots that are ceramic are so heavy, like you get them in one place, you're never moving them again. So this really keeps your garden changing however you want it to. So that is the bag in the pot method, and I believe that it was originated by Mal Condon. That's where I learned it from. He is the hydrangea whisperer on Cape Cod, and it has just served me so well. I wanted to share it with you so you can give it a try. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.